Good evening, morning, or night, every class out there, and welcome back to Sightline, where we have a very, very special guest on tonight. She is known for being the dominant right hand of the Knockout Custom Weapons mod, and for somewhat getting me this late night top show host gig. Now, welcome to the stage, Alice Knockout. Thank you so much for coming out on the show tonight. I know it's pretty early in the UK by this time, so I hope our coffee machines in the back work just as fine for you as it did us.
Well, as much as I appreciated your offer of coffee, I don't drink coffee anymore. Don't worry, I'll be fine about it.
Ta! Yeah, sorry about that. I hope your stay here in Cali is a decent one at least. Alright, now we're gonna hop right into the questions. How do you feel about Zhain and his, like, videos?
Okay, so the main two YouTubers that feature Knockout's content is Zhain and Panacek. And, well, back about a few months ago, both of them were kind of on a similar content format. And then recently, about a month now, Panacek changed up his content type to be closer to what Karma Charger used to have previously, which has definitely significantly improved the quality of Panacek's videos. Now, while I think that Panacek's videos are good, they're really informative and actually quite fun to watch, there's nothing wrong with Zhain's shorter content format, but it does kind of come off as him using our content for his own gain. And while I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, I'm going to say that his videos do tend to be less informative and less entertaining than Van Panacek's videos. Now, never mind the fact too that now on 2 occasions he has actually shown a weapon on the wrong class. So to give a bit of insight into that one, back during 5.4, which was the Spy 2.0 update, we accidentally had a spy weapon on Demoman, and he showed it on Demoman, which was pretty misleading. Unfortunate, but it happens. Then, in 5.5.2, we added a deck of cards to Spy, which also found itself on Demoman, and Zhain showcased it on Demoman. Again, misleading, but unfortunate. I'm going to assume that it was not intentional, but it still happened anyway, which is, well, kind of sad, but whatever.
Yeah, I asked this question because he's kind of the reason I made the video, in that his videos were always a little, like, shoddy to me. Yeah,
it was Zhain and Panacek that actually allowed me to discover Knockout in the first place. And after seeing some of the really, really shit weapons that they were showcasing, I was like, I cannot. I have to go over there, and I'm going to take control of this, because this is just bad. It's horrible. Like, as much as I like Reagy as a person, she does not know how to balance for shit. I mean, to give her some credit, she has at least improved a small bit, but dear god, what I saw back a couple of months ago was horrendous.
Alright. When were you put onto the team? Like, is there a date?
Let's see. When was I first a part of the team? Well, it's genuinely a good question. I think it's now been a couple of months. I'm certain I started back in, like, early June. So, I mean, a specific update was 5.3.5. That was when I first joined. So that'll be about 4 or 5 months ago.
Alright. How's the team? Because prior to you commenting and that other guy commenting, I did not know that there was more than one person working on the mod.
Okay, so this is where things get a bit more interesting, because technically speaking, there really isn't a team. So, in a sense, this is how I kind of divide it up. So, me and Reagy are the official in-house people for Knockout. Then, we have the new old weapons pack, which is made by Kiri, which is a completely separate thing, by the way. So that is a add-on to our server. Then, we have that pack made by Tangerine, Paint and Grunt. So that is a second add-on to the server. And then, we have some, like few, contributions from our actual base, actually. Which includes the Sputnik Special and the Flare Launcher from Zadrave, who is one of our moderators. Then we got the Trauma Hawk, which is a pretty recent entry made by one of our players. I think it was Colrot. And Madro in particular has had a couple of his entries put into the server.
So do you take user submitted content, or?
Well, recently we opened up the ability to submit requests onto our GitHub page. And, well, yeah, we do take submissions, although most people don't really come up with very clever submissions. Like, for instance, the Trauma Hawk, which is one of the only submission that we've actually taken off of that GitHub page. That was actually quite well thought out, in a sense. It's basically a hybrid of the Power Jack and the Home Wrecker, as well as having the ability to also deal critical hits against disguised and invisible spies, which is kind of funky, but then again, it's an okay weapon. And we thought, you know what, let's add it and see what happens. And yeah, it's a decent weapon.
Why was Reagy the go-to for the in-game chat messages?
I honestly have no idea. I think that might have been there for a very long while. I don't know why it's still there, because she doesn't really respond to messages unless she's already in the server, or you contact her via the TF2 Classic Discord.
Has there ever been any threats towards her through the messages? Like, has she ever received any threats, or do you not know that?
Threats? Interesting. Yes, actually, people have actually sent threats her way, which is pretty funny. Well, I'll say it's not actually funny, because, you know, threats are threats, but still. Yeah, she does often get, hate, which is unfortunate. I mean, I get hate too, but obviously, there's a difference between me and Reagy, and that is that Reagy is a transgender person, and because of that, she does get, exclusive, threats and hatred because of that, while I don't.
Makes sense. I know people like that. How often do regular TF2 players come to you confused?
Confused?
Yeah, like, has there ever been some sort of event that's happened where a TF2 player from the base game has come over, like, why can't I use this weapon, or where is this?
No, not really. When most people join our servers, they seem to usually, understand what they're getting into. So we've not had any issues of people coming from base Team Fortress 2, coming into Classic, and then joining our servers, not finding, like, the Brass Beast, the Direct Hit, the Natasha and whatnot. They just don't expect to see those kinds of weapons there. Then again, at the same time, we do have that integration with the new old weapons pack, and that does actually try to port over some weapons from base TF2, and we removed those entirely because people don't join custom servers to use weapons that they can just use in base TF2.
Yeah, I see that all the time with, like, the stock Stickybomb launcher and stock scattergun. Have you ever had any fake servers?
Yes, actually.
Not considering Wonderland.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, there was actual fake servers running around. It was actually somewhat of a big deal that the official dev team for Team Fortress Classic had to make an actual announcement around it about these fake servers, because if you join these fake servers, they will mess up your downloads. Like, don't even bother checking the files, because it's genuinely disgusting stuff. Now, fortunately, the fake servers are a non-threat. They won't actually do anything malicious to your computer. But, obviously, if you join a fake server, you need to check the IPs to make sure that, you know, it is a fake server. And if it is a fake server, and you joined it, quit TF2 Classic, go to your TF2 Classic folder, get to your download folder, and erase it. Just outright flat out delete it, because it's just going to be full of so much nasty stuff. So yeah, there are fake servers out there, and we do advise people to be very cautious on what they're joining. I do have the official list of IPs for the 4 custom weapon servers.
Alright. I have never personally joined a fake server, but...
Yeah, as long as you know what the official IPs look like, it's pretty easy to avoid the fake servers. As well as this too, fake servers also display a fake list of players who have the exact same playtime. If you notice that there's a server with players who have the exact same playtime, even down to the seconds, it is a fake server. Real servers will not have players that have identical playtimes.
Now, off the crux of this, Wonderland, how do you feel about them? And would you call them a fake server?
Okay, so Wonderland is interesting. We have a kind of a strange relationship with them in a sense. Because, as far as I'm concerned, we did not give consent for them to host our content, but they did it anyway. Which is a bit strange, but obviously, we can't exactly stop people from taking our content and, rehosting it. I know that, for instance, I think Lose.tf, which is a Brazilian server, I think we gave them permission to actually host that content. Reagy might correct me, who knows. But, yeah, Wonderland is a weird place. That's all I can say about it. It's a weird place. They don't use our content with our permission. And, for the most part, they don't actually know how to properly implement our content to their servers. Because, for some context, we have weapons that require plugins to work. For instance, the Rainmaker's Barrage gets critical hit if you rocket jump with it.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's done via a plugin. And then of course, the Market Gardener also works on the same premises. The Demonite stuff that we have for our shields, they use a plugin too. And recently we added the Combatant Directive, and we modified the Maniac's Burster into actually having a toggle homing ability, meaning that if you press the Alt-Fire button, you can actually toggle between tracking and non-tracking rockets. Think of it like the Half-Life 2 rocket launcher, where you use your mouse to control where the rocket goes. It's pretty funny actually, and kind of cool.
Yeah, I've seen those weapons in the server, because that's like the closest servers to the US, and I usually played those. I remember people trying to use those weapons on there and it not working after like a day.
Yeah, because I don't think that they have access to the plugins that we do, which is kind of funny because I think, yeah, Azzy is the creator of TF2 Classic Turbo. She actually made those downloads to those plugins public, meaning that technically, if they wanted to, the host of Wonderland could have actually downloaded those plugins and put them onto the server. But obviously, again, we don't really have any proper contact lines between Knockout and Wonderland, so... items that we have on our server that require plugins will not work on theirs. Which is hilarious because back like a couple of months ago, Wonderland tried to merge our content with Big Maisie's Custom Weapons Classic content, which was a big no-no because Big Maisie does not release his plugins, and pretty much all of his weapons rely on plugins that he has developed himself and does not release to the public. Also, as well, people have actually asked if we'll actually ever get any US servers, and the answer is no, we're not going to do that. We simply just cannot invest in hardware overseas. That's just unrealistic.
That's fair. What were the reactions towards limited weapons? Like, the limitation towards weapons, and some certain weapons not being the same as base game?
Right. So, to give some insight, Team Fortress 2 Classic has, I believe, only a quarter of base TF2's attributes that are actually programmed. And because of that, it means that we are genuinely, seriously handicapped in terms of what we have access to work with. Which is why, for instance, some melees can feel quite samey, because melees in particular don't have much we can do to them, unfortunately. Obviously, in case of certain weapons not behaving in the same ways as base TF2, again, that's all down to the fact that the attributes that those guns using base TF2 are not programmed for Classic, so we can't use those attributes at all. They don't work. Which sucks, because obviously there are some things that would be really cool to have in Classic, like for instance the Machina's infinite penetration on full charge, the Heat Maker's like faster fire rate at the full charge, the Cleaner Carbine's crikey meter, and much more stuff. There's a lot of things that would be really cool to have if we had access to the full attribute base, but we don't, because again, so much of it is just uncoded. However, the Team Fortress 2 Classic developers, for the next update, which is expected to come out in sometime in November, hopefully, should give us some new things to play with, which sounds great. One of the key things is that next update for Classic will give us a proper Demonite mechanic, which is good, because that means we can get rid of our charge plugin and just use that. As well as that too, next update is going to bring us, in a sense, modular alternate fire stuff. Meaning, for instance, if you wanted a minigun that could like scope in, you could do it. A bat that can backstab, probably do it. And a lot of things can definitely be done in the next Classic update, so fingers crossed that comes out in some working order.
That sounds great. I didn't know about this next update that's coming out.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting, and I also as well pitched to Trotim, who is one of the developers, about creating some kind of projectile template, because right now, most of our projectiles that we use, like throwables and stuff, it's basically just a rocket, which is pain.
Yeah,
because obviously, you know, it'd be nice to have, you know, throwable projectiles that don't act like rockets, that they can do different behaviours. And so I forwarded this idea to Trotim about creating a blank projectile that can be heavily modified. So for instance, if I wanted to make it into like a rocket with no, we'll say with different explosion particles, I'd be able to do that. Or a, like a dynamite pack, but with no bomblets, we can do that. Or hell, even create a properly like implemented cleaver, that'd be really cool as well. So there's a lot of hope for the next update in terms of all the features that you can bring to custom weapon creators. And I look forward to it, but I have no idea when it's going to release.
Yeah, it has been a while.
A very long while, yeah.
What's one of the biggest reactions to a weapon getting changed?
Ooh. Well, in that case, you kinda have to think about what weapons had the biggest impact in our servers. And honestly, I think it really comes down to the combustion cannon, the battle axe, the nuke when that thing was back there, the H.A.G.I.S. There's definitely a lot of weapons that we've had in Knockout that have a pretty significant effect on the server. And obviously, over time, we've changed them up, and in some cases, we've flat out removed them. I think, in general, the biggest reaction was probably to the Davie Crocket, the nuke. Because that thing has got quite a bit of a history, so just one moment here.
It's got a very big history.
So, the Davie Crocket started off as a ridiculously high damage weapon with a large blast radius but unfathomably slow projectile speeds, and you basically fired it once and you couldn't really reload it. And then in 5.3.7 I think it was, I proposed a rework to the gun, which would make it one shot only, so as soon as you fire it, you have no ammo left, and you have to go find more ammo. It did more damage, well, nowhere near as much damage as it did in the past. It had a much wider blast radius, and yeah, that's it. But then, Reagy, with the massive galaxy brain that she has, decided to make it have afterburn and bleed. And when she did that, it just became the worst thing ever. Like, I don't know why she did that. The rework would have been probably less painful if she did not do that, but she did, and oh god, I can, like, the flashbacks, the PTSD just comes to me.
Oh man, I was there for that release.
Yeah, it was really awful. And then of course, people then quickly learned that you could use the Gaelic gas to actually fire the nuke, pull the thing out, and boom, you now got ranged strip to melee. Oh god, that was...
I remember that fucking day.
Yeah, that was awful. I was like, oh my god, what have you done? And she's like, what have I done? What have you done? And when I go back to her and said, you're the one who gave the fucking nuke the fire and bleed afterburn, why?
I remember initially being there for when people were messing around with the Gaelic class. I remember it not being used with the Davie's Crocket, but it was used with a regular rocket launcher. I think it was the one with a big tube. That's not specific. It was like a box and a tube at the end, and some dude would just spam it. But
yeah,
I was very much there for the radiation update, which I like to call it.
Waking up to burn and bleed. Great. So yeah, then in 5.3.8 we nerfed the ever-living crap out of it, and it seems to have worked. And then in the Great Purge, which was 5.5, we just outright just Thanos snapped it. It's gone. And good riddance. That thing was one of the worst weapons we've ever added, which is saying a lot because the battle axe exists.
Yeah. Hold off on that.
Oh, the battle axe was such a goddamn thing.
How about the Death&Taxes update? The one with
the Death&Taxes update. Yeah, so that added the civilian and the VIP game mode, and of course, then we had Doc, if that's even his name, add some custom weapons to civilian. Now, I wasn't there to see the worst of it, but I was very much aware of that bone saw that made mercs like twice their size.
Oh yeah.
Which was just like, why? Why would you do that? What the heck is wrong with you?
Okay, I have to admit, it was a cool idea, but it got everyone stuck in the wall.
Yeah, that's the thing. Most maps are not designed for mercs that big, and so it just does not work. But it was a valiant effort.
I was there on the release day, and Reagy was in the server.
But yeah, that thing now just gives you 3 seconds of overcharge, which is kind of annoying, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when we released the Lord of the House for civilian, that thing was very interesting because it used to give a passive mini crit aura, meaning that anyone who was around civilian got 3 mini crits, and then the actual boost was crit boost. And because I was an absolute moron, it ended up leading to that boost giving 15 seconds of crits.
Isn't that longer than the Uber charge?
That's longer than the crit trigger charge by almost twice as much. So you basically had these little British fuckers with these top hats and canes running around, and then going to like the nearest soldier and heavy and just going, here's 15 seconds of crits, now destroy the server for me. It was bad. And yeah, obviously, you know, these little mistakes can sometimes happen and they can just break everything. Like for instance, the infamous Liberty Launcher typo, that just made the Liberty Launcher just unload like all 5 rockets instantly, just kills everything in front of it. That was pretty funny to watch.
Alright. I said not to explain more on the battle axe because I'm gonna start asking about some weapons.
Okay.
And going forward, the battle axe. And originally for my thumbnail, I was gonna have Demo being the one grinding on the battle axe, but I could not find the person who made the model.
Right. Okay, so the battle axe is probably one of the most infamous weapons of Knockout for sure. So that goddamn thing had more damage, a faster fire rate, 5 seconds to crits and kill, and it also had the downsides of you were marked for death while it was active, it drained your health while it was active, and it had 75 less health while active. So you kind of became the ultimate glass cannon, but in the end, there was no downsides that could stop that thing. Because the one time you got that kill, you were smacking 240 damage swings, and you could do that all the goddamn time, and it just turned Demo into an absolute kill train. And oh god, it was so awful. It was so bad.
Yeah, I remember getting Ubered on Dust Bowl and getting a bunch of kills that way.
Yeah, I mean again, like, the very second that Demo gets one kill, it's gonna just go. It's just gonna roll. Like, 1 kill, 2 kill, 3 kill, it just doesn't stop. It just does not stop. And so, after God knows how many updates, it finally got a nerf, thanks to me of course. What I did to it was, I think I actually increased the health drain. And, oh right, I forgot. Yeah, it also made you move 40% faster while it was active. Or was it 50%? No.
Well,
50% faster while active. So you could outrun a scout with it out. And so I said, right, okay, let's sit down for a minute and talk about this. So the first set of nerfs I did was I reduced the movement speed to 40%, which was not enough. And then I actually, I think I would increase its health drain, but even then, that was not enough. So it's like, so sometime come, I think it was 5-4 when the next set of nerfs were handed out. Actually, just 1 second here. I can actually just quickly check this. So yeah, by 3-7, the damage and speed bonus was cut back, and the health drain was increased, and that put it into a slightly better state. However, when 5.5 came out and the suit of armor was added, the battle axe started to show its ugly head again. And so, after that happened, I had to, well, change it up. There was no way that this battle axe could stay as it is. It is simply a flawed concept. And so, I reworked it, and it does a lot of things differently now. So now it sits in this configuration. It deals 25% more damage. You move 10% faster while it's active. However, you swing 15% slower. If you miss your melee swing, you are marked for death 2 seconds. However, if you land a hit, you gain mini crits for a second. So the idea is that this new battle axe basically rewards accuracy by giving you a damage boost. And it's definitely, again, a risk-reward weapon, but at least it's no longer going to just wipe the floor with the entire enemy team. As well as this too, when we added the charge plugin, we had to change all the Demon Knight melees anyway, because the introduction of the charge meant that we had to, you know, balance the axes around the charge.
What about the medieval update? That one update where a bunch of different classes were made into medieval versions, and there's things like the Scout as a Jester.
So the medieval update, which was, I believe, called Renaissance Revival. This was a mod pack by Stickybomb, and this was very creative. I'll give him credit. It was a very creative mod, but it seemed like that after the initial content coverage by the Panakak and Zhain, interest in it quickly dwindled, and I'm still not sure exactly why that happened, but yeah, Medieval kind of just came and went. I thought it was quite creative, it was pretty clever, but clearly people were just not interested in the medieval stuff, and so it just got phased out, unfortunately.
At a point in time in the mod, there was no stock Stickybomb launcher usable for.
Oh right, okay. Yeah, so that one's actually a quick answer. So the stock Stickybomb launcher accidentally found itself removed, because the Big Betty, which is a bomb in the medieval pack, actually overwrote the Stickybomb launcher. So that's how that happened.
I was wondering why demo had multiple grenades in the secondary.
Yeah, and so we fixed that, and we added the All Brimstone, which is the small little bombs, and the Big Betty, which is the big bomb, to the official servers. I don't know why we actually did that. I mean, Reagy said that about the fun, and I'll be honest, they are fun, but they're not really balanced for Knockout. They are balanced for Medieval, and it shows.
Yeah. On the topic of Stickybomb launchers, how was the H.A.G.I.S?
Okay, so the H.A.G.I.S was a very interesting weapon. In a sense, you could call it a direct upgrade from the default Dynamite pack. So it had a 60% damage bonus, and it could also throw bombs a lot further than the Dynamite pack could. And so it destroyed. It was way too powerful, and on payload maps in particular, it was extremely annoying. And so in the Great Purge, we removed it because no shit, Sherlock. But then very recently, like literally the last update, it came back because somebody made sounds for the H.A.G.I.S, which is cool. And of course, Reagy wanted to try out a new plugin, which was basically to take the Dynamite pack projectile and make it so it doesn't actually split into smaller explosives. Which is kind of strange, but it works. And so the new H.A.G.I.S has 3 shots instead of 1, recharges a lot faster, but only deals basically a fraction of the damage it used to do. So it's back in 11 well, but it's no longer ridiculously overpowered as it once was.
Instead of coming of age.
So the H.A.G.I.S basically got a redemption arc after getting deleted.
How about the female models? Because you told me about how they were really messing up the Your Eternal Reward spy.
Okay, so the female models. This has a bit of a story to it. So basically, I think this is now 2 months ago. Somebody decided to be incredibly transphobic towards Reagy, and you could say that out of spite, she decided to add female mercenary play models to the server. And, well, I don't know if I actually like them or if I hate them, because, like, the Femme Scout is quite well made. The Femme Pyro was a bit interesting because we used a much less sexualized version of that. And then when Alex released his own Femme Pyro model, we actually adopted that in replacement.
Oh, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, but female engineer is fine, but female heavy demo and medic are just flat out cursed. Female spy is okay, but I realized that the female spy does not play nicely with the character assassination, which is a knife that basically replaced the Your Eternal Reward. So basically, with this knife, if you hit somebody with it, you would copy their class and loadout, kind of like the Eternal Reward that we had in the past. However, now that we have the female models, female spy does not play nicely with this attribute, because if you're a female spy and you stab someone with this knife, your model does not change, meaning that you have a T-posing female spy with different weapons, and it's very messy. I'm not sure if we're going to keep the spy model, or the knife itself is going to get removed. If it gets removed, that's a bit of a shame, but whatever, I can live with that. But obviously that's still up for debate.
Well, I think the knife is an interesting concept and it should stay.
Yeah, but the knife is a good concept, but obviously it and the female spy can't stay on the server. One of them is going to have to go.
Understandable. How much of a pain is it to make code for different buildings for engineer?
Oh, different buildings. Okay, so this is kind of interesting because we basically have to use a plugin to create different buildings entirely. And right now, for buildings, we have the jump pad, which is, I believe, just a base TF2 Classic thing. We have the mini dispenser, which is a plugin thing. We have to use a plugin for that teeny little dispenser. Then we have the artillery sentry, which we have to use a plugin for that again. And then we recently introduced the super heavy sentry, which of course that too also uses a plugin. So yeah, custom buildings all use one plugin for the time being. But yeah, if we didn't use those plugins, it'd be pretty much impossible to have custom buildings.
What about the repair node? I remember that being a chat.
Alright, the repair... Man, I keep forgetting about the repair node's a thing. I believe that is also its own plugin.
That explains the chat, alright.
I do find it funny that, like, I think like only 5 people in the entire Knockout community knows that the repair node exists. It's one of those things that most people just don't use.
Yeah, I think I've used it once, and only once.
Yeah, I've never used it.
What are your thoughts on Open Fortress?
Okay, so I actually played Open Fortress before Team Fortress Classic, and, well, I will give Open Fortress credit where it's due. It definitely takes a lot of work to convert a team-based shooter into a Quake-style arena deathmatch, but I don't know if I actually like it. Like, I do appreciate the effort that went into it, but it really is just Quake in TF2 skin, which is just, nah, really.
Agreed. What's your usual development time?
Okay, so this is a bit interesting because I have this habit of making a update, and then when the update's released, I make another update in advance, so... yeah. So, obviously, how long it takes to make an update depends on what I'm adding, the difficulties I have when, you know, messing with stuff, and of course, Reagy's own end and stuff. So, for instance, I think the shortest update we did was like 2 to 3 days. But, the Great Purge took us a greater part of like 2 weeks to make.
Rebalances and removals?
Yeah, so obviously, well, your regular updates include new weapons and, of course, balance changes. And of course, when the Great Purge happened, we had to remove, I think it was about 120 weapons, which is a lot. And that took us a very long while to do. And of course, too, I wanted to make some really new, fresh weapons for that update, so I spent a good 2 weeks making, I think it was about 20 weapons by the end of it, for that update. So yeah, that was pretty intensive.
Was there ever any overlap in weapon ideas? Like, were there ever differing opinions on how a weapon should be balanced?
Well, yeah, I do think so. I know about for certain, Tangerine Paint and Grunt definitely have their opinions on how some items should be balanced, and obviously I too have my own opinions on how things should be balanced, and since I am now pretty much the authority around these parts, I often do have the ability to actually act on my opinions. I think one of the most interesting ones that kind of got me a lot of flack was changes to the Arsonist's Araya. Now that flamethrower was basically a huge problem for Pyro for a very long time, and then recently I reworked it into something a bit more unique, and people hated it because they didn't like the fact that I changed it so much, but at the same time, I'm not really a fan of giving flamethrowers a damage bonus because the Team Fortress 2 Classic flamethrower right now is really strong, and that's probably because of the fact, oh hey, it actually works as intended. Like, credit to the TF2 Classic dev team, they can actually make the flamethrower work while Valve can't. And obviously, there was also questions on the stock sniper rifle, Which, yes, by the way, we did actually just outright delete the sniper rifle.
Oh.
It's a bit controversial, but I have my justifications for it.
Yeah.
And the key justification that we had is that we can't really balance custom weapons around the stock sniper rifle because the stock sniper rifle is just too good. And we know that because there's a reason why bots resort to playing sniper, because it's the best weapon in the entire game, hands down.
Yeah.
And so we took it out and replaced it with the Poacher's Pride, which is actually a scrapped Team Fortress 2 Classic weapon. And that seems to have worked a lot better. However, we have noticed as a consequence that players have gravitated towards the sniper rifles that behave quite similarly to the stock sniper, such as the Big Shot and the Counter Snipe. But that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in terms of, you know, how we express our opinions and how things should be balanced, it's going to be one of those things that are pretty objective. Like, again, for instance, when the F-bomb was made, I can remember scrolling through Zhain's comment section, and everyone was just disappointed that it wasn't like a one-shot nuke weapon. But obviously, as we've already established from Davie's Crocket, a one-shot nuke weapon is not a great idea. And to double down on that, Valve themselves, back a few years ago, made a similar weapon, and they said it was simply just not good. It was not fun to play against, and it was simply just unfair. And they're right.
Yeah. On the topic of the Davie's Crocket, I remember there being a couple players with names trying to bring back the old stats for the Davie Crocket. How was that? Or did you guys never encounter those?
I don't think I've actually encountered anybody like that. I know for certain that we have our trolls. Don't get me wrong, we have trolls in the server for sure, and they always irk me, and it sucks because I hate to be irritated by these people. And obviously, when we removed the H.A.G.I.S, they properly kicked off. Like, they were just spamming, bring back the H.A.G.I.S or you will suffer. And I'm like, you ain't doing shit, son. But yeah, I mean, they can be happy now, because guess what? We added the fucking H.A.G.I.S. But yeah, I think nobody genuinely wants the Davie's Crocket back. Which is hilarious, because Madro repurposed it into the big fucking gun. God dang it, Madro. Obviously, so yeah, the BFG is the spiritual successor of the nuke. However, it's currently disabled because it causes server crashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So, the successor for the Davie's Crocket is so powerful it causes servers to crash. Fitting.
I remember covering this with you. The medical protection gave everyone extra speed, and at a point in time there were medics running around with Uber Spritz and I think the speed bag.
Okay, let's take a look here. The medical protection.
Yeah.
So the medical protection was very interesting because it was definitely Reagy's attempt to actually validate battle medics. However, when it first dropped in 5.3.6, it was a nightmare. Because you can move as fast as a scout. You had 225 health, which was absolutely ridiculous. And obviously, if you used the
Uber Spritz.
so look at, I think it was the Uber Sprites. Yeah, that gave you Uber Charge and hit. You could basically just have two medics just Uber chain, and they'd never die because. Yeah, so you had such a short window to kill them. They had so much health. They moved so quickly. There was nothing you could do to actually just kill them. It was such a huge pain. And so, it wasn't no surprise that literally the update afterwards, it was nerfed hard.
Makes sense.
Like, yeah, 5.3.7, the next update after that thing was added, the health bonus was dropped to 35 health. Wait a minute, it had an Ubercharge duration bonus?
Yeah.
What? Oh my... It gets worse. Okay, so yeah. So it also gave you an Ubercharge duration bonus, just to make things that extra bit fuck you. So yeah, 537, the health was dropped much down lower. The overcharge duration bonus, which should have never been in the first place, was removed. And the speed bonus was also removed. And then in 5.4, it got a bit an extra tweaking. So now the current version of this vest gives you 25 extra health, still doubles your primary ammo, gives you 50% less healing, so half your heal rate, and you cannot get Ubercharge from it unless you use the Uber Sprites melee or 2 of the add Uber on hit primaries. See, that was a very interesting weapon that really shook the server when that thing was first added. Holy god.
Have you ever had any problems with sprays?
Oh, sprays. Right, okay. Yeah, so Reagy decided to call a vote to add sprays back, and it succeeded. And yeah, some people have really messed up sprays, and I have definitely had to spray ban a few people. Our spray policy though is quite straightforward. Just don't post anything pornographic, and you'll be fine.
That's fair.
After all, one thing to remember is that yes, we do have children who play on these servers, so if I find you catching anything pornographic, you're getting spray banned. That's simple as.
Oh wow, I really never would have guessed that. Alright, we're gonna take a short break real quick. We'll be right back. And in the meantime, here's a word from our sponsors. Sightline has been brought to you by the Cat Agency and Animation Network, Midnight Ramen, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hey, you there, Pyre with the gibbous. Do you have trouble with heavies? Are you tired of being called a brain-dead piece of shit by the entire enemy team? Well, my buttery little friend, I do have a weapon for you. Say hello to the Dragon's Fury. The Dragon's Fury. Pick yourself up one today.
Oh, hey, welcome back to the show. We're gonna hop right back to it. Starting with, at some point there were a bunch of weapons added with the cursed feature.
Okay, so unusual weapons. These things are interesting. So the unusual weapons were designed to be kind of my own personal mental exercise of how messy can I make a weapon but still keep it balanced. So first of all, the first one was the Broken Man's Legacy,
Yeah.
which was for Engineer.
I love that.
Let me just quickly take that. Right. So the Broken Man's Legacy, I think was added in 538. This shotgun had a much higher chance to cause random crits. You die instantly to any critical hit, but you also deal more damage in close range. And of course, the real big kicker, your maximum metal is cut in half. This shotgun was hella weird, but at the same time, it's actually kind of viable. And I do see people actually running around with it, so despite its ridiculously crazy curses and balance stuff, people do use it, and obviously for good reason. It is actually a decently good shotgun.
Yeah, it's really fun to run around with.
After that, we added the Unholy Reckoning, which is a throwing knife for Spy.
Yeah.
Now, this thing is just flat out strange. So, if you hold this knife, you die to anything, not just crits. And I love it too, because of how the knife is set up, you actually cannot use the Sapper at all, which is sad. And this knife tranquilizes people, it marks them for death, and it also gives them bleed. And it does about 135 damage on a hit, and then it does about 70. Hang on. 5 times 5. 25 bleed. So in total, it can do a bit of damage. It definitely hurts. But yeah, the fact that, you know, it can kill you instantly if you hold it is definitely a very interesting trade-off. And then recently, we added a third entry to that, which is the Tale of Tragedy. And this is a very interesting sword. So the Tale of Tragedy is a sword that gives you complete melee lock on hit. So as soon as you hit one of it, you are forced to use that sword until you die. It completely ignores any forms of damage resistance, and it also deals crits against overhealed players. And the real fun thing is it instantly kills anyone who's on fire, which is just pretty crazy. As well as too, you also get 100 health and kill. It does 15% more damage. It swings 10% faster. However, if you miss, you're blocked for death for 5 seconds, and you move 15% slower. So it's a really interesting sword, and it's definitely one of the stronger blades you can use as a Demo Knight right now. But it's not really overpowered, it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, those weapons are really interesting and fun.
Yeah, they really do push. Yeah, they do push my creativity to its limits, and they somehow still resemble balanced weapons somehow, which is just crazy because they're so goddamn outlandish.
Yeah. I've only ever had experience with the Broken Man's Legacy, but that was during the time I was still playing and I was using that weapon.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I made myself a name for it when I was using it. Where is it? Here it is. Cursed Corrupt Cutthroat Cowboy.
Nice.
Yeah. Onto the Fortunate Son. What was with the model change, and what was the design process?
Okay, so the Fortunate Son. This is the assault rifle soldier. Well, obviously, Reagy decided to completely violate the laws of TF2 by adding assault rifles. And don't get me wrong, I do not agree with adding assault rifles to Team Fortress 2. It's just not on, and it shouldn't be done. But, you know, we now.
Yeah.
Was very interesting because the old model was, well, an actual M4 type rifle.
Yeah,
and the animations it had caused a massive amount of your screen to get blocked, which is not ideal.
Oh, did
And
it?
so, by request of the players, we actually changed it to the Open Fortress Assault Rifle model, which was a good move, because the animations were a lot better, and it just looked, it looked better, and that's how that went wrong.
Oh,
In terms of...
Okay.
So in terms of actually balancing the base weapon, it's been a bit of a strange one because, first of all, I don't really agree with giving non-heavy classes a full auto weapon that can deal about 300 damage per second, which was basically what the assault rifles were doing, which is not clever. And so, I think in 5.5.1, we did some functionality changes to the assault rifles, so they have recoil. However, because of how that works, it means now they eject shotgun shells, which is kind of hilarious. Just the assault rifle that just spits out shotgun shells. But yeah, so we went back and we gave the Fortunate Son and the right arm of the free world recoil if you use them. And that obviously makes them harder to use, but it also means that, you know, it feels more like an assault rifle. And in 5.5.2, actually no, yeah, I think it was 5.5.1, I changed up the balance between the assault rifles to try and get them into better positions. So for instance, right now, the Fortunate Son, it fires faster, it's a bit more accurate, but it does less damage. So it's kind of like okay at longer ranges, but in like close range, it's really solid and it can tear through players in a decent amount of time. Although it's nowhere near as fast as it once was. I guess in a sense you could say it's basically like a souped up submachine gun in a sense. So yeah. Fortunate Son and the assault rifles are a challenge because it's like, how do you make something that's not supposed to be in this game work in this game?
Well, I never knew that the model change came from the community itself. I always thought you just guys felt like...
Yeah, people wanted us to change the model because, again, it was just too ugly and too blocking of the screen, so Reagy just simply just took the Open Fortress model and just used that instead, and, well, it's a lot better.
Yeah, I do kind of miss the old model, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Alright, how about the Big Iron?
The Big Iron. Right, that's the Engineer's secondary.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. I do believe that the Big Iron is still around. The Big Iron was changed back in 5.3.2, which is a long while ago. Ever since then, the Big Iron has basically remained the same. So from 5.3.2 onwards, it's just there. It's not changed at all.
Were there any restrictions on the models you could pull from the workshop? Did you have to ever ask for permission?
Okay, so first of all, no, we don't ask for permission for the models. Although we do actually put credits for the models nowadays. So I think it was 5.3.7 onwards, where we decided to have a proper classification system in a sense. So we use colours on the names of the weapons to better determine who actually made the weapon. Like for instance, we have weapons with like dark green names to signify that they are official knockout weapons, and then we have off-white names which are, well, third party. And Shouldock in particular has yellow names, which is just strange, but sure. But yeah, nowadays we give credit to the models, and we also list who actually made the weapon. So for instance, for the Big Iron, the model is made by Afteroid, and the weapon is made by Reagy. And that will display on every single weapon. Of course, you know, model and the credits change for each weapon, but yeah, those exist. In terms of getting access to weapons, it's a bit strange because I don't think we've ever actually asked anybody to provide us models. We usually find them off of mods, TF2 mods.net, which we have to use the Wayback Machine for because that website's dead. Game Banana is also a big one. But in particular, I found a lot of interesting stuff on the old Emporium pages. And again, because the Emporium is dead, we have to use the Wayback Machine to get them. But honestly, as long as you know where to look, you're pretty much good for life. So Steam Workshop, Game Banana, TF2 Mods.net, and the Emporium is where we dig up our models mostly. In terms of where Reagy gets their stuff, or sorry, her stuff, I'm not exactly sure, because again, I don't know if we've ever actually had to go and get permission from people to get models. But again, that's just me personally.
Alright, that's always been a big question for me, whether or not you have to ask, because I know some of these models, or some of these creators are stingy.
Yeah, but in my experience, I've not had to ask anyone for them, so there you go.
The 357 for the Spy.
357. Okay, so there's two versions of this. So let's take a look. So there's two versions of the 357. The one that you could be referring to could be the one that gives you completely silent decloaking.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Or the one that does. Okay, right on. Okay, so in that one, that gun has not changed at all. It still gives you more damage, completely quiet decloak, but huge spread. That thing is just the same as it was ever since it was added.
What is the other 357 you're talking about?
Okay, so that one was the Half-Life 2 Magnum Revolver, and that thing did a massive amount of damage. Like, that was dealing up to 100 plus damage a shot. However, it was also stupidly accurate, but it fired super slow, and I don't think it had much ammo for it either. However, in the Great Purge, it was removed because I wasn't a fan of us using models that didn't really fit TF2's art style.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because we still allow the war crime that is Coev's Doom set.
I've always been wondering about those Half-Life weapons, because I remember the spas coming in, and the revolver, and the crossbow.
Yeah, so, we added the Doom Eternal, not Doom Eternal. Yeah, so we added the Doom stuff in 5.3.4, I think that was. That was actually the time of where I started to actually play Knockout properly, so bazinga. But yeah, obviously Reagy wants to add, you know, like these silly little tie-ins and whatnot. That's fine, as long as you can find items that actually match TF2's style.
Yeah, I remember the revolver just straight up using the Half-Life reloads.
Yeah, the revolver was literally just a one-to-one port from Half-Life 2, and it was just but ugly.
Is that the reason you used the Canopy Killer for the spas?
The Canopy Killer?
That's the name of the model for the spas.
I'm confused.
Okay.
Right.
I'll end it there. This is gonna be the last weapon I ask about. The Crucible.
Right. Oh, the Crucible. Okay, so the Crucible has had its interesting history since when it was first added. It was ridiculously absurd, and pretty much ever since it's kind of been on a small nerf train. So that was added back in 5.3.5, which is again when I first joined. In 5.3.6, my first update in a sense, the range for it was cut back, and then in 5.3.8, additional things were added to it. So for instance, one of the things I gave it was health drain, meaning that when you actually use it, you lose health, and the movement speed was reduced to 33%. Instead of 50%, so you can't outpace Scout anymore, and you lose health as you hold it, so that's how that works now. Also, it also got a fire rate penalty, so you can't swing with it as much. Other than that, it's kind of remained unchanged. Well, I say that, but it's basically just a far worse version than what it usually was.
Yeah, that's
But yeah, I was this too, in 5.5.2, yeah, I added the Maggot Mutilator, which is basically a big freaking knife soldier, and that thing has basically kind of become the go-to movement melee for soldier now, despite the fact that thing only gives you a 15% speed bonus. But obviously I think people prefer that over the health drain on the Crucible.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Alright, that's my last weapon question, and these are the last
Alright.
three. Where did the idea of classes wearing cosmetics for different weapons come from?
Okay, so Reagy started this a couple of months back, obviously. I don't actually know why she does it, but I'm guessing it's probably just a thing she got from the New Old pack. Since Kiri, when making that pack, he decided to give classes cosmetics on certain guns to give them a bit more flair, I suppose, as well as to possibly signify guns that change the playstyle drastically. And I could say that we have also kind of taken that approach, so anything that, you know, really changes your playstyle will usually be accommodated by some kind of cosmetic to throw it off. But then recently, I decided to take it into something a bit more interesting. So for instance, in 5.5, The Great Purge, I added Demonite armor. So it's basically just a big ol' freaking suit of armor that you can wear as Doorman, to obviously complete the whole Demonite aesthetic. And that thing basically functions like a moderately buffed version of the base TF2 booties and bootlegger. And then my second thing I did was actually adding a full-blown bomb suit to Demoman. I wish I was kidding. So, yeah. So yeah, Demoman got a full-on goddamn bomb suit in 5.5.2. I'm sorry, no. 5.5.3, yeah, that's it. And the bomb suit basically gave you more health, gave you some resistance to damage, crits as well. However, you moved slower, medics couldn't heal you, and you switch weapons a lot longer. As well as this too, the bomb suit also gives you a special primary weapon that you can't have access to unless you use the bomb suit. Primary weapon is basically a multi-shot H.A.G.I.S, but it's much weaker. So basically you can just use it to like completely spam like a choke point or a control point, and it just becomes explosive Armageddon as of like 24 little dynamite sticks just going off on the point, and it just becomes pretty serious. But because of how that device works, it is actually kind of a bad primary weapon, and so the bomb suit kind of requires you to use a more competent secondary to compensate for the fact that your primary weapon is now basically just an oversized Stickybomb launcher. And I am also definitely considering giving Soldier a new set as well for the next update, and that is being worked on over time. And of course too, I think the more infamous example is the heavy tank sets. I like those a lot. So right now there are 3 items for heavy that can convert him into a tank, in a sense. The wall, which is just the big freaking riot shield.
Oh, that used to be the fence, correct?
Yeah, that was once the fence. You know, the thing that made you literally invincible as long as you held it. I still remember that.
For it.
So yeah, the wall is the first one, makes heavy have a effective health of about 600, which is a lot of health, but obviously there's things in Knockout that can just melt that in seconds. And then in 5.3.8, I introduced the tank duty, which is a kind of similar business, except that instead your shield is replaced with an actual like tank-styled minigun, which is pretty cute.
Oh yeah.
The minigun does a lot less damage, but it's more accurate, spins up faster. The effective health was 571 with that weapon, which is pretty decent. Again, no healing from medics, you move a lot slower, and you switch weapons a lot slower as well. So tank duty is kind of okay. It's not strong, but it's not weak either. And then the final tank heavy was the Man Killer, which is basically a heavy with a 2-barrel AK shotgun. No actual penalties to move speed. You have 450 health, which is a lot. You can get healed by medics with that set on, and the shotgun that you get deals about 180 damage a shot, but it has extremely awful accuracy. So yeah, I do like the idea of using cosmetics as a way to create new playstyles, and for the most part, from the current ones that I have made, I have definitely felt like I've succeeded in that.
What was the wildest time, in your opinion? What was the wildest
time? Oh, the wildest time, oh my goodness. Well, there's 2 areas I can point to. First of all was, of course, the Age of Nukes, which was 5.3.7 to 5.3.9. That was very interesting to see. just every soldier and their mother had a nuke, and every corner you turned was a nuke. Yeah. That was very interesting, and a lot of people were very mad at Reagy, and rightfully so, because she basically made what would have been a rather acceptable rework into literal hell. And then the absolute wildest time ever had to be in 539 in Pyro 2.0 on launch. Because I had the absolutely galaxy brain idea to make a melee for Pyro that made you invisible until you died, as long as you got a hit on somebody. And it gets even better. Gets worse. Gets worse. So not only did that Scythe make you invisible until you died, you could outrun a scout, it did 70 damage a hit, and it marked enemies for death, so you can do up to 100 a hit on the second swing. It also crits heavies and snipers. So it was a genuinely impossible to defeat weapon. And I think the Grim Omen, which is the name of Melee, was genuinely the most powerful thing we have ever added to Knockout, and that was by freak accident. And it was the Grim Omen that really educated me on the fact that, first of all, do not give any class that's not spy invisibility. And then, second of all, it definitely shows that my testing methods are not perfectly infallible or reliable. And again, it shows because also in that same damned update, we had the payoff, which was a single shot scattergun.
Oh,
but
that.
it tons of yeah. So yeah, you had the Scythe, which was mad buzz in launch, and basically we had to fix that thing as soon as possible because it broke all the servers. Everyone was just fucking Scythe Pyro, and it was just a really weird game of hide and seek with Scythe Pyros. It was the most terrifying thing I have ever witnessed, and it's probably the most embarrassing thing I have ever done.
Yeah,
and then of course,
it must have been a fun time to be in the servers.
Oh no, it sucked. It sucked. It sucked so bad. It was so awful. Like, you could do nothing. You could do there was nothing you could do to beat it. Because you can't hit the Pyro, it can outrun you even if you're a scout, it can kill you in 2 hits, and if you're a heavy or a sniper, you're really done. So there was no way to counter it, couldn't see it coming, and it could just kill you in 2 ways. It was so dumb.
You could even spy check for him because he was a pyro.
Yeah, it's a pyro, so you can't even spy check it either. It was, I guess you could say, it was truly one of those weapons that only actual cheaters could beat, because there is no counterplay to it. It is literally the best I've ever created, by freak accident as well. Like, oh my goodness, yeah.
That's great.
Oh, that was awful. That was truly bad. So yeah, no matter how bad the Age of Nukes was, those 2 hours of the Scythe being in the game were the worst time in Knockout history, for sure. So yeah, that was that.
Alright.
And the best part is, nobody has forgiven me for that as well.
They still bring it up.
They still bring it up. It has now become an eternal grudge against me. The grudge of the Scythe.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, after a update or 2, the Scythe was completely reworked into basically what you could call a hybrid between the gloves of running urgently and the killing gloves of boxing. So it's kind of okay now. It's not really good, but it's not bad either.
Alright, final question. Describe to me the different states of the community.
Different states of the community. Did I? Okay, so just make sure that I heard that correctly. Did you just say the different states of the community?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess we now kind of have a rather predictable pattern in terms of how things change. So, we usually release an update. Everybody, of course, uses the new weapons, because why wouldn't they? Obviously, if there's a weapon that is genuinely broken, they goddamn make us know about it. Like, for instance, in 5.4, we had a flamethrower on Medic, and it was a good example of sometimes things that work in testing do not work in servers. Because when I tested it in my testing, it was fine, but on the servers, it destroyed everything instantly. It was way too powerful, which is hilarious because, again, when I tested that thing locally, it was fine. It killed like a soldier in like 4 seconds. But on the server, it kills a soldier in like a split second. So that was a very good test of sometimes things don't work how you think they would. But yeah. So yeah, update's released. Everyone uses the new weapons. Everyone also asks for the patch notes. The patch notes are in the goddamn MOTD. Please stop asking about the patch notes. Obviously, if there's any guns that are too powerful, again, they bloody well make us know about it because they'll never stop using it. Obviously, if there's nothing, you know, bad or noteworthy, then people just play as average, and that's it. I mean, obviously, when we had the Great Purge, which was a genuinely big event, the Great Purge really brought on a lot of hatred and doubt in the future of Knockout. And I think it took us about a good week before all that, well, emotional grief kind of subsided. It was pretty interesting to see how people just suddenly turned on, just like, I have never seen people turn against us so fast in, after we launched 5.5. I mean, we kind of sat there and told them, listen, we're gonna remove a third of the weapons, including the live weapons from TF2 base. Don't get salty about it. And guess what they do? They get salty about it, but not only salty, they genuinely goddamn threw hated our way. I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, most of the time, the community is rather well behaved. Most of the time, anyway. We do have a bunch of bad people who happen now and then, but you know what? That's easy to take care of.
Yeah, that's just kind of the thing with TF2. The community is always a little broken on what happens.
Oh, also too, when we add new maps, because we change out maps every update, people like to always point out how goddamn awful some of the maps are, and for the most part, I don't blame them. Like recently, in the last update, we added Team Deathmatch into the map roster. Big mistake. Really bad mistake. We should not have done that, but we did it anyway. And next update, Team Deathmatch will be removed from Knockout because, wow, who would have guessed that a custom weapon server with Team Deathmatch would be very unfun to play? But yeah, I think the worst part of the community seems to be people can't really agree whether Knockout is good, bad, balanced, unbalanced, whatever. There's always conflict and confusion on plenty of things. And honestly, in my personal opinion, ever since I came to Knockout, I have definitely improved things around here. Because if I wasn't here, I can imagine that there'd be a lot more unbalanced stuff, because at the end of the day, I kind of don't trust Reagy with a lot of things. And it kind of shows, because when I came to Knockout, Reagy's been adding less and less things to the server herself, which is interesting. So in a sense, I have basically taken over Knockout by myself.
Well, Alice, that's all the time we have for now. Thank you so much for coming out tonight on the show. Can we get one last round of applause for Alice from the crowd, please? That's been my voice actor Tissue. That's been my animator Cat. I've been Swiss Cheese. Good night, everybody.